I love it. I love it. I love it. Look at this. This is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Hey, I'm not surprised.
Hey, what's poppin', my homies? Hope you're doing well, feeling blessed, having a good day, having a good week. This UFC main event, this UFC fight night is going to be in Kansas City. Ian Machado Garry versus Carlos Prates in the main event. And we've got a stacked card to break down. All right, guys, let's just go. Let's go. First matchup on the card, we've got Chelsea Chandler taking on Joselyne Alapantera Edwards. And Chelsea Chandler, she's now 2 wins, 2 losses inside the UFC. She's primarily a grappler. A couple of her performances, they have been good, but a couple of them, they've been pretty bad. The fights she lost were against Norma Dumont and Yana Santos, which in all fairness, both of those opponents have way more experience than Chelsea Chandler. She is pretty inexperienced still, and you kind of see that when she turns her back against Norma Dumont and literally runs away from the fight. She ran away from the punches of Norma Dumont, which was a hilarious moment, a really funny moment, but it does show the inexperience of Norma Dumont. Now, striking wise, she kind of reminds me of Aspen Ladd, which isn't a good thing, right? You don't want to remind anyone of the striking of Aspen Ladd. On the flip side, you've got Joselyne Edwards, who has way more experience. She's now 5 wins, 4 losses inside the UFC, which isn't exactly a great UFC record, but it is better than Chelsea Chandler's. Now, one of the main weaknesses of Joselyne Edwards has always been her wrestling defense. She really struggles to keep the fight on the feet. She's really not that good at stopping the takedowns. Her striking is definitely what she's best at. Nice teep kicks, good low kicks. Her boxing, at times, it can be good. And Joselyne Edwards, she's not the greatest fighter you've ever seen, but compared to someone that's going to turn their back and run away from the fight, compared to someone that's going to run away from adversity, she's pretty good. So guys, looking at the game plans of these fighters, if you're Chelsea Chandler, you're looking for takedowns. You're looking to glue Edwards against the fence. If she puts Edwards on the fence, look for Edwards to actually show more experience in the clinch. Look for Edwards to land knees to the body, elbows off the break. She's got more experience than Chelsea Chandler, and it might show in the clinch battle. The game plan is clear though. If you're Chelsea Chandler, it's very clear. Impose your physicality. Make it a ground fight. And for Joselyne, you've got to show improvements. Finally show improvements with the wrestling defense, the takedown defense. You know, that's something that Joselyne has to do. She has to prove to herself, I can keep this fight on the feet. And if she does that against someone like Chelsea Chandler, someone that's going to turn their back and run away from the fight, she should outclass Chelsea Chandler in the striking. So in my opinion, give me Joselyne Edwards via decision. I just think with the experience, the boxing, the kicking, the teep kicks, I just think she should outclass someone that's going to run away. Next matchup, we've got Roberto Romero taking on Timmy Cuamba. So Roberto Romero, this guy fought David Onama on short notice and actually done really well, considering he was a plus 800 underdog. He dropped David Onama in round 1. He was landing a bunch of inside calf kicks, staying in the face of Onama, just a high aggressive output by Roberto Romero. However, after round 1, he really started to fade and Onama really took over. He really started to beat the brakes off Roberto Romero, but still, we give so much credit to Roberto Romero because that was short notice and he wasn't supposed to do that well against David Onama. Now, Timmy Cuamba is so far 0-2 inside the UFC and he kind of has to win this fight. He kind of has to win because you have to win at the highest level. You know what I'm saying? You've had 2 fights. You've lost both of those fights. And they were against Pelagioki and also Lucas Almeida. And it's fair to say that Roberto Romero is a step down in competition for Timmy Cuamba. It's also fair to say Timmy Cuamba is a step down in competition for Roberto Romero, considering he fought David Onama in his UFC debut. And I do like the pressure for Roberto Romero. He's got good toughness and he's really willing to stand and trade in the center of the octagon. We see that in his UFC debut. However, guys, Timmy has a very slight height and reach advantage, a very, very slight one. He's also got faster boxing and arguably the better footwork. I would describe Timmy more as the technician and Roberto Romero more as a junkyard dog. So guys, for me personally, I'm going to pick Timmy Cuamba to pick up his first UFC win. I think Timmy Cuamba via decision is potentially the prediction to make. But Roberto Romero, so much credit for that UFC debut. But I do slightly lean towards Timmy Cuamba. Next matchup, we've got Jaqueline Amorim taking on Polyana Viana. And Jaqueline Amorim is now on a 3-fight win streak after losing in her UFC debut to the very tough-nosed Sam Hughes. She's got wins over Montserrat Ruiz, Corey McKenna and also Vanessa Demopoulos. Now I do think Amorim is somewhat similar to Talita Alencar. They're both elite jiu-jitsu players, but they have to improve their striking ability, their cardio management, their composure, their wrestling. Amorim simply has to focus her training on becoming a well-rounded MMA fighter. She's already got a phenomenal grappling ability, so improving those other areas is going to be key for Jaqueline Amorim if she's going to become a monster in the weight class. Now, Polyana Viana. What can we say for Polyana Viana? Just like Amorim, she's primarily a grappler. Her jiu-jitsu is very decent. Her striking is also serviceable, at least compared to Amorim. But Polyana Viana, she's one of these fighters that just finds a way to lose. Her physicality, it's really weak. Once her opponents get her to the ground, she just stays in full guard. She's looking for an armbar or a triangle off her back. If she doesn't find either of those, she's going to spend the remainder of the round on her back in full guard. She's just not that physically imposing. She can't work her way back to the feet. And I also don't feel the fighting spirit in the game of Polyana Viana. I do feel the fighting spirit in the game of Jaqueline Amorim though. I think Jaqueline Amorim, she's focused on becoming more well-rounded. Her jiu-jitsu is arguably much better than Polyana Viana. And I just think Amorim, she can consistently wrestle Viana to the canvas. And there's certainly a possibility that Amorim can submit Polyana Viana. If she doesn't find a submission, I think she wins on points. So guys, my prediction has to be Jaqueline Amorim via submission or to win on the scorecards. And I'm going to check the odds because I haven't checked the odds so far on the breakdown. We've got Jaqueline Amorim minus 800. So that kind of tells you, man, Polyana Viana, she's going to find a way to lose. She does have good jiu-jitsu. Is it better than Amorim's? Probably not. Can she win a striking matchup? Well, potentially, but Amorim's going to bring her to the canvas. So yeah, Jaqueline Amorim, that's the pick. Minus 800. That's crazy though. Next matchup, we've got Saaiman taking on Malcolm Wellmaker, and I'm quite torn on making a prediction with this matchup. On one side, you've got Saaiman, who trains with the champion Dricus du Plessis. He's already got UFC experience. He's pretty well rounded in both striking and grappling. However, he is on a 2-fight losing streak, and those losses come against Christian Rodriguez and Peyton Talbot. And there's no shame in losing to either of those guys. There's no shame. Now, on the flip side, we've got an undefeated fighter. And you guys know how I feel about undefeated fighters in 2025. They've got an awful record in the UFC. We've got Malcolm Wellmaker, who's 8-0 as a professional mixed martial artist. Punched his way to the big time via Dana White's Contender Series. And what I noticed about Malcolm Wellmaker's performance is he's extremely fast. Like really, really fast. When I was watching his performance, I was like, man, look how fast this kid is. Look how quick he is. Then I realized he's like 30 years old. And I was like, man, it's true what they say. It's true what they say. Black don't crack. He doesn't look 30 years old, let's be honest. But guys, how does this fight play out? How does a matchup between Saaiman and Malcolm Wellmaker play out? Well, the experience is on the side of Saaiman. But then you look at Malcolm Wellmaker with the speed advantage, the better jab, and also his hand position. Look at the hand position of Malcolm Wellmaker. Guys, in boxing, you don't keep your hands directly over your chin and you don't put your hands down near your waist. You want your hands just below the chin, just covering the upper chest. And that's exactly where Malcolm Wellmaker puts his hands. It's in the perfect position to land the jab, the perfect position to land the counter knockout punch. Exactly what he did on the Contender Series. A beautiful counter stoppage. So guys, for me personally, I've got a slight feeling that although the undefeated fighters this year in the UFC, they've not been good. If you look at the record, they've been very bad. I've got a slight feeling that Malcolm Wellmaker, he stays undefeated. I think he's going to win via KO TKO. There's also a possibility that it goes 15 minutes, but I do slightly lean towards a late round 2 KO TKO or a final round KO TKO for the quick counter boxer that is Malcolm Wellmaker. That's my pick. And now checking the odds. We've got Malcolm Wellmaker minus 118 and Cameron Saaiman plus 100. So the bookie's saying, look, this is a good fight. This is a very good matchup. And I agree. This one's a tough one. Next matchup, we've got Blackshear taking on Alateng Heili. So Alateng is a Chinese wrestler and he pretty much always fights the same way. He's looking for a takedown and typically he does get the takedowns. But the problem with Alateng Heili is his cardio. After a strong first round, he's always tired in round 2 and usually exhausted by the final round. On the flip side, we've got Blackshear, who's super active right now. He wants to remain active, which is always a positive with any fighter. Now, Blackshear coming off a nice win against Cody Gibson, where he did lose round 1. He lost round 1 to the pace and pressure of Cody Gibson. But then in round 2, he makes the fight all about him. He dominates Cody Gibson in round 2 and eventually gets a Kimura submission in the final minute of round 2. So even if Alateng Heili wrestles Blackshear to the canvas, which I'm assuming he's going to do, he always fights that way. Even if he does that, he's playing with fire. Blackshear's jiu-jitsu is the fire. The same way Malky Costa, his jiu-jitsu was also the fire against Alateng Heili. And you also have to consider that Alateng hasn't fought in a whole year, whereas Blackshear, he's fought 3 times in 8 months. So the activity advantage is on the side of Blackshear. The momentum is on the side of Blackshear. And I just think there's more danger in the mixed martial arts skill set of Blackshear. So for me personally, and I'm assuming for you guys too, the pick is going to be Blackshear with another victory stoppage. He's going to get a stoppage. And looking at the odds, yeah, the odds, man, look at that. Minus 400, minus 480 on Blackshear. Those odds are a little steep, but at the same time, Alateng, he's one-dimensional. He's got bad cardio. And then you're looking at Blackshear with the activity. Yeah, he's going to win. I think he's going to win. Next matchup, we've got Chris Gutierrez taking on John Castaneda. Now, I've already done a breakdown on this fight, so I'm going to keep it brief. But I am going to change my prediction from my original breakdown. Initially, I picked John Castaneda to win this fight. But now both fighters have truly prepared for one another. I'm going to pick the more technical striker to win, and that's Chris Gutierrez. Now, Chris Gutierrez is one of the best calf kickers in the UFC. He manages the range really well, and typically, he always fights his version of the fight. Even Song Yadong switched up his game plan and started to wrestle against Chris Gutierrez. And that kind of shows us that it's very frustrating to be in a striking matchup with El Guapo Chris Gutierrez. I do like John Castaneda though. I do like Castaneda. I think he's a tough fighter. He's very tough to compete against in his own right. But I think the calf kicks, I think the constant feints of Chris Gutierrez and just that trickiness in the game of Gutierrez, I think it will be too much for John Castaneda. The fight's happening in the big octagon in front of a crowd, so even more space for Chris Gutierrez to implement his tricky style, his style of floating on the outside and stinging like a bee, stinging with those calf kicks, landing those kicks to the body of John Castaneda. That style of Chris Gutierrez, El Guapo, is proven to be such a tough style to compete against. He's so tricky. He manages the range. He's technically good. I just think Chris Gutierrez, he's a level above John Castaneda. And John Castaneda actually fought someone who's kind of similar in a technical sense. He fought Daniel Marcos. And for 10 minutes in that fight, he was outclassed. He was simply outclassed. He did find success in the final round, but that's too little too late. You're already down 2 rounds. And I kind of think it will be a similar case, a similar scenario here in a fight between Chris Gutierrez and John Castaneda. So my prediction, give me El Guapo, Chris Gutierrez. Next matchup, we've got Evan Alder taking on Zhang. And Zhang is taking this fight on very short notice. So he's at a disadvantage in that respect. Not having the training camp, maybe not being 100% in fight shape. There's no pressure on Zhang to win this fight. He's doing the UFC a favour. Now, on the flip side, Evan Alder, there is some pressure on Evan Alder to win this fight. He's had a full training camp. He was preparing for someone who's arguably a tougher matchup than Zhang. And also Evan Elder. He has UFC experience. So there's definitely pressure on Evan Elder to perform in this fight at a decent level and certainly to win the fight. Now, will he win the fight? I think so. I think so. So my prediction has to be Evan Elder. He's a decent striker, good technique, good power, and also good toughness. He should definitely win this fight against a very short notice Zhang. And I'm assuming that Evan Elder, he's somewhere around minus 500. And now checking the odds. Oh, he's only minus 200. What's up with that? What's up with that? That's weird. That is weird, man. Yeah, Evan Elder, in my opinion, he's going to win this fight. He should win this fight. I think he will win this fight. That's my pick. Next matchup, we've got Matt Schnell taking on Jimmy Flick. And in my opinion, this is one of the most difficult predictions to make on this card. Because, guys, you've got Matt Schnell, who's got a glass chin. His chin is literally made of dust. The moment you connect with his chin, he starts skating around the octagon like Bambi on ice. You know what I'm saying? Then you've got Jimmy Flick, who retired after winning in his UFC debut. He then returned a couple years later, and I can't really say he's progressed a whole lot in his mixed martial arts skill set. He's primarily a grappler. His striking defense, it's not that good. His striking offense is also not that good. He's a one-trick pony, an opportunistic grappler. He'll attempt flying triangles and things like that. So guys, who do we pick? A one-trick pony that's going to attempt like flying triangles, arm bars, you know, get Matt Schnell to the canvas, look for an opportunistic submission? Or do we pick someone who's got a glass chin, but also a veteran, also a very well-rounded flyweight, but a glass chin? You know what I'm saying? Who do we pick here? I guess I'm going to pick Matt Schnell, but I would never bet money on Matt Schnell. I'd never do it because once you connect with his chin, he gets dusted. So yeah, I'm going to pick Matt Schnell, but I'm interested to see what the odds are saying. Let me check the odds. You've got Matt Schnell minus 250. Oh my goodness. I mean, Jimmy Flick isn't a dangerous puncher. Even though Matt Schnell's chin's not that good, can Jimmy Flick actually dust him up on the feet? Probably not. So yeah, I kind of understand putting Matt Schnell as a favourite, but that much of a favourite? That's crazy. But yeah, I'm going to pick Matt Schnell. Next matchup, we've got Ikram Aliskerov taking on Andre Muniz. And guys, in my opinion, this is clearly one of the easiest predictions to make on this card. Ikram Aliskerov, he's got a layup against Andre Muniz. If you break down the skill set of Aliskerov, he's extremely dangerous in the striking. He's extremely dangerous on the ground. He's extremely well-rounded. Whereas Andre Muniz is primarily a grappler. He's got one-round cardio. So how does Andre Muniz win this fight? He's got to bring Aliskerov to the canvas in round one and wrap him up like a blunt. If that doesn't happen, more than likely Andre Muniz is getting dusted. And that's exactly what I think is going to happen in this fight. Aliskerov, he's a lethal combat sambo practitioner. So he's going to easily defend the poor takedown attempts of the jiu-jitsu player. And once he defends those takedowns by Andre Muniz, it's only a matter of time until Aliskerov breaks the chin of the grappler Andre Muniz. Ikram Aliskerov is an absolute sniper with his punches. He's going to find the chin of Andre Muniz, drop him to the canvas, and then follow up with some nasty fight-ending ground and pound. So guys, in my opinion, the prediction has to be Ikram Aliskerov with a round 1 or round 2 KO TKO. This is basically the UFC's way of saying, Ikram Aliskerov, you stepped up to fight Bobby Knuckles. You got dusted by Bobby Knuckles, but you stepped up. You saved that fight. You saved that main event. You saved that card. Now we're going to give you a layup, so you can go in there and do to Andre Muniz what Bobby Knuckles done to you. So enjoy this one. Enjoy getting a free winning bonus, Ikram Aliskerov. And I'm assuming the odds are like minus 1,000. It has to be, right? You've got minus 500. Okay, minus 500. But that's a layup. That's a layup for Ikram Aliskerov. Next matchup, we've got Randy Brown taking on Nicolas Dalby, boxing versus karate. Randy Brown is now 13 wins, 6 losses inside the UFC octagon. He should maybe be 14 wins, 5 losses though. A few people felt that he won against Brian Battle in his last fight. Now Randy Brown has excellent boxing. You look at the way he dropped and stopped Muslim Salikov. Not many people have done that to the king of Kung Fu, but Randy Brown did. And it really highlights his boxing ability. He's always got the height and reach advantage, and Randy Brown has an understanding of how to use that reach. He's such a good boxer. On the flip side, you've got Nicolas Dalby, who's now 40 years old. But despite his age, Nicolas Dalby is still competing at a really good level. Look at the way he destroyed Bonfim. He was losing most of round 1. He lost round 1. But then you look at the pace that Nicolas Dalby set from the opening seconds in that fight. Even though he lost round 1, the pace that Nicolas Dalby was fighting at, it was good stuff. It was really good stuff. Truly one of the best plus 500 underdog wins I've ever seen. And it was over in Brazil. You know, to go over to Brazil and to give Gabriel Bonfim his first loss, that's magnificent stuff from Nicolas Dalby. But guys, my prediction for this fight, it has to be Rude Boy Randy Brown. I just think his boxing is too good for the karate fighter Nicolas Dalby. I can't really see Nicolas Dalby breaking Randy Brown with a higher pace, the way he did against Bonfim. But I can see Randy Brown dropping and stopping Nicolas Dalby midway into round 2. So the prediction for me, it has to be Randy Rude Boy Brown. And now checking the odds, we've got, minus 240, minus 220 on Randy Brown. That makes sense. You can't go too crazy on the odds because even though Nicolas Dalby's 40 years old, he's still pretty good. He is still pretty good, but so is Randy Brown. So is Rude Boy Randy Brown. Let's go. Next matchup, we've got Michel Pereira taking on Abus Magomedov. And maybe one of the more difficult predictions to make on this card. You've got Michel Pereira, who is such a monster. Power for days, super explosive, nothing but a monster. But guys, all that power, it takes energy. His cardio isn't exactly good because of how much power he has, because of how much power he's going to use in the opening 7.5 minutes. Now, Abus Magomedov is very technical. He's very technical. Maybe not as explosive as Michel Pereira, but Magomedov also has dusty cardio. Once Magomedov leaves those opening 5 minutes, he's just not as dangerous anymore. He just slows down. He gets tired. So if both of these fighters are going to be tired past round 1, if they're both going to be tired, 7 minutes in, 8 minutes in, who's the right prediction to make if they're both going to fatigue? So I kind of feel that if they're both going to get tired, if they're both going to fatigue midway into round 2, I kind of feel that who's going to stay sharper? Who's going to be the one to be sharper even though they're tired? And I do feel that's going to be the winner. And I kind of lean towards Abus Magomedov being the technically sharper fighter when they're not tired and also when they're tired. So I'm going to pick Abus Magomedov to get his hand raised in this fight. But I could be wrong. I could be entirely wrong because Michel Pereira, man, this guy's got power. This guy's got serious fight-ending power. And if he connects, then it's fight done. Next matchup, we've got Giga Chikadze taking on David Onama. And we're back to making tough predictions on this card. I think Giga Chikadze is obviously more technical in comparison to David Onama. If we're making a prediction purely based on who's more technical, then Giga Chikadze, that's the prediction to make. But if we're going to make a prediction based on who's got the momentum, who's the bigger puncher, and who's more likely to win if the fight gets ugly, then David Onama is the prediction to make. Now, Giga Chikadze doesn't want the fight to get ugly. If the fight gets ugly, that favours Onama. He wants the fight to be more like you go, I go. You go, I go. He wants the fight to be more like that. Controlled chaos, if that makes sense. Whereas Onama, he wants a real fight. He wants to throw at the same time. Let's stand in the centre of the octagon and just throw haymakers at one another. Forget the footwork. Forget the respect. Let's just have a barn burner of a fight. That's what David Onama wants. And I kind of think we get both. We're going to get a chess match in the opening stages in round 1. Then we're going to get a barn burner in round 2. So I think round 1 is going to go to Giga Chikadze. Then in round 2, it becomes less about the chess match and more about of a rock'em sock'em robots type of matchup. And David Onama potentially drops Chikadze in round 2. We potentially have a 1-1 fight going into that final round, going into the end game. And by that point in the final round, Chikadze being a bit older now, not as active now, he might drop a close final round. So I'm going to side with David Onama via split decision. But guys, I wouldn't be shocked if Chikadze won this fight. There's levels to striking. There's levels to the game. And Giga Chikadze, his striking level is extremely high. And you look at David Onama, he's losing round 1 to Roberto Romero. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Roberto Romero, but if you compare Chikadze to Romero, they're worlds apart. They're worlds apart. Chikadze is so high level. His striking is so good. The kicking ability, the ability to stay at range and make the opponent almost hypnotized to the kicks coming his way. Chikadze is so good. So in those opening 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 minutes, it's going to be all about Chikadze. But then David Onama has to make it more of an ugly fight, a barn burner of a fight, less technique, and more about trading in the phone booth where there's no space. Chikadze wants space. He wants a controlled fight. If Onama brings him into the phone booth where there's no space, then it's going to favour David Onama. It all depends what type of fight we get. I think we get both. We get a chess match at points, and we also get a barn burner at points. I think we potentially get a fight of the night between David Onama and Giga Chikadze, and I slightly favour David Onama. Next matchup, we've got Anthony Smith taking on Zhang. And this will now be Anthony Smith's 25th UFC fight. And guys, I pretty much say the same thing every time Anthony Smith fights. He's past his prime. He's extremely hittable. He's taken a bunch of damage throughout his UFC career. He's taking more damage now than he's ever taken. He's just a shell of his former self, and I think he should retire. On the flip side, you've got this absolute monster, Zhang. I almost want to say that he's the Chinese version of Francis Ngannou. He doesn't have the same experience as Anthony Smith, but he understands what he's good at. He understands his game plan. Stay on the feet, use the boxing, and just detonate the opponent. And that's exactly what I think is going to happen in this fight. I think if you're Anthony Smith, you have to bring the opponent to the canvas. You have to impose your jiu-jitsu. He has to look for a submission win against Zhang. But more than likely, with Anthony Smith being so old and so past his prime, so slow on the feet, so hittable, I think more than likely Zhang via round 1 KO TKO or round 2 KO TKO. My prediction has to be the Chinese version of Francis Ngannou. I'm going to pick Zhang via KO TKO. Moving into the main event, we've got Garry taking on Carlos Prates. And guys, I want to start the breakdown by saying I think this main event is extremely difficult to make a prediction on. And guys, right now, I'm perfect on predicting Garry matchups. I picked him to win every single fight that he's won in. And I also picked him to lose against Shavkat Rakhmonov. I'm also perfect on predicting Carlos Prates matchups. I picked him to win on the Contender Series, and I've also picked him to win in every single UFC matchup that he's had. He's 4-0 in the UFC, 1-0 on the Contender. So guys, combining all of those fights, right now, I'm 14-0 between Garry and Carlos Prates. But like I said, this is extremely difficult to make a prediction on, because Garry, he's taken the fight on short notice, whereas Carlos Prates, he's had more time in training camp. So my first question is this: why is Garry taking this fight on short notice? That's my first question. Now, it could be a case of getting paid more money. It could also be a case of wanting to be the hero. And it could also be the case of not having pressure to win. More than likely, it's all of those things. However, is Garry really being a hero by taking the pressure off of himself? Garry has taken the pressure off of himself in this main event. He's not really expected to win. And if he loses the matchup, he can just say, well, I stepped up when nobody did. He can just say that. Whereas Carlos Prates, he's arguably put more pressure on himself by accepting a fight against Garry. He was training for Jeff Neal, someone that lost to Garry. Now he switched his focus to Garry, someone who's more high level in comparison to Jeff Neal. So guys, in a way, one fighter's taken the pressure off and the other one's put more pressure on themselves. That's kind of how I see it. Now guys, Carlos Prates fighting out of the Fighting Nerds kind of reminds me of a mini Alex Pereira. The way he stands, his Muay Thai striking, the kicking, the accuracy, the power that he possesses. I kind of feel like Prates is the welterweight version of Alex Pereira, which is kind of terrifying. I'm not going to lie, that is terrifying. And guys, Garry is definitely super technical. His footwork is good. His understanding of range is good. He's a real competitor, is Garry. And maybe that's another reason why he's accepted a fight on short notice against an absolute monster. That competitive Irish spirit that Garry has. And guys, in my opinion, Carlos Prates is by far the more impactful striker. If we're looking at who's able to cause more damage from their techniques, without a doubt, it's Carlos Prates. But Carlos Prates hasn't been in there with someone like Garry. And what if he gets tired in a 5-round fight? What if Carlos Prates wins those opening 10 minutes? He wins round 1, he wins round 2, but his cardio then falls off a cliff. And Garry then wins the next 15 minutes for a 48-47, handing Carlos Prates his first UFC defeat. Guys, this main event in my opinion is very, very difficult to predict. Yesterday, I was leaning towards Garry. Today, I'm leaning towards Carlos Prates. It's one of those fights where I'm changing my prediction day by day, leading up to the main event, leading up to Saturday. And most of the time when you're changing your prediction day by day, you've got a 10 out of 10 matchup. And that's exactly what we've got here. Garry versus Carlos Prates is 10 out of 10. And my prediction's going to be, I'm going to pick the fighting nerds. I'm going to pick the underdog. I'm going to pick Carlos Prates. I'm going to pick someone that I've compared to Alex Pereira. Mini Pereira, Carlos Prates. Anytime you compare someone to Alex Pereira, you don't pick against it. Especially not a short notice Garry. Now, Garry may prove me wrong. He may do it. He may go in there and prove me wrong. But I'm leaning towards the fighting nerds. That's my pick. And guys, don't forget to drop down your main event prediction in the comment section below. That's a phenomenal main event. I can't wait to see who's going to win. Is it going to be Ian Machado Garry? Is it going to be Carlos Prates? Let me know who you're taking in the main event. Drop down your favourite underdogs, your moneyline bets, your favourite Money City parlays. Drop all that stuff in the comment section below and enjoy this stacked Kansas City card. Alright guys, keep your eyes to the sky and never glued to your shoes. Peace.